and then I'll.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about.
Three minutes left. 3 minutes left. Alrighty, if it looks like we got everything going. All right, Team Wolf, Team Wolf. Let me see where Team Wolf was. Where did I write it? Here we go. Back row, stage left. You guys, come on down. Yeah, thank you. I accidentally left my OJ out, and I don't like no pulp. That's my bias, but it tastes like it used to on free or reduced price lunch. Mm-hmm. What is like, if you know, you know, and I'm like, now I think I know why. Something. Yes. Oh, sometimes they had this Minute Maid fruit punch popsicle that was in this little triangle. Yeah, that thing. Yeah. I won't say the good old days because that's the taste of. Yeah, I was like, I'm really picky about apples and oranges, not because I mean, not because I don't like them, but because that was the fruit options forever, and they weren't ever good oranges or good apples, or if it was like once a fucking year. Yeah. Yeah, those ones. Lemony. And yeah, all of it. Mm. We prevailed. For what it's worth, crab cakes are just fancy fish sticks and creme brulee are just burnt marshmallows. So we're not missing too much. Yeah. All righty, guys, we got 1 minute left. This is our last minute. I'm going to bring Zoom back so I can start putting their stuff on the board. Did I see a hand? What's going on? Okay. You will be done well before then. Yeah. It'll obviously, it sounds like now it'll be especially in your infancy. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. But that also yeah, you'll just send me all the essays. It's kind of like last time. Anyone who's looking at they took my already grade. But yeah, exactly. I mean, if a lot of them come in early and you want to start grading early, you're more than welcome. But on my end, usually it's like your part is done usually like a week before grade 3. So that would be my hope for you, that you could be sending them my way and really be done by, yeah, what is the 23rd minus a week? The 16th? Yeah. I see. You're right. I did get a little bit. Okay. Friday. That works. Yeah, I'm sorry that this year goes downhill the way that the semesters get. The whole thing's weird this year. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you guys in the Zoom rooms. I'm going to go ahead and start writing on the board. Alrighty. So from your seats, because I do want to start getting into lecture, We're not going to necessarily run through every single one, but I would love some awesome volunteers to share some of what we see on the board. I'm also going to put our Zoom compatriots on here. Okay. I'm trying to summarize in my head, but these look awesome, everybody. You guys were the Zoom Room Zebras. I don't know if you saw that new change name, but I liked it. Ancestry. Yes. I love it. Yes, okay, okay. That's okay. If you don't have any, that's totally cool. Yeah. Awesome. Benefit white people and create boundaries. Don't want to stay. I don't. Hang on. I said you. I gotta start stopping the music when I want you guys to talk, but I just, in my mind, I was like, it helps the crazy quiet, but we need a little quiet. So we just have a couple minutes to do this. I'm hoping though, these are terms that you guys, are more familiar with from a theoretical perspective now, but are things that you kind of had a frame of reference for just from living life. Like these are things that while you were learning about how sociologists talk about them in these really grand theory making ways, you probably had some real world experience. And so that's what the board filled in with quite beautifully. I can't wait to take a picture of this. Now, yeah, who wants to get some shout outs for these animals? Even if not every animal talks, let's see which ones are the brave ones. Yes, I'm going to add Cushy's point as well and blood quantum. I love that blood quantum and benefits. Come on, I know someone can do it. Maybe someone who didn't write on the board, but their awesome compatriots did. You can talk when my back's turned, I swear. Go ahead.
For the similarities between non-functional and non-functional, you said that they both are like means of identifying people without them being able to self-identify with the limitations of non-identity.
Yes.
But for difference, you said the one talk was like you just have to meet a minimum
Mm-hmm.
and like identify that way. Versus blood quantum, you have to meet like this maximum. And for other the boundaries is that it's like sensitive data or different things that ask for your racial identification where you have to fill out a box, especially there were a lot less categories or you don't speak women with
Yeah.
identity.
Yes.
So that is like
that's an important thing. I would say, yeah, from a data nerd perspective, if you're in a chance and you're someone like me, we call us a wobbler. we could mark a couple boxes. Accurately speaking, I could do a couple boxes, but more often than not, the data, if you're thinking long term, the data, when you're in those chances to mark those boxes, don't be someone who's marking things that aren't true. That's different. But think of, unfortunately, if you mark more than one race, they only pick the first one you wrote down. Or sometimes if you wrote multiracial, they don't count that in anyone's. So if you, in some ways, if your identity is political, I always put down American Indian, Alaska Native, because it's important that my experience and the resources that would be attached to whatever one Blythe is, goes to those communities or is accurately represented as such. I love that as like as you guys are kind of sifting through census data or different things like that for your current papers, that's where those things end up having like a really small box having really big implications. I love that. What team was that? What team? Team Eagle. Nice. I love it. We might not always do animal names, but when someone's like name several of things, it's not numbers, animals. I guess I could do colors, but I like using the colors. But I love it. Now, Zoom did some really cool thoughts that I want to just shout out because I think some of them touch on what we see in the board elsewhere. And first off, it's that both of these things basically benefit settlers or white people, broadly speaking. I always think it's important to put the emphasis on settlers, though, because we know you don't have to be white to be a settler, and not all settlers are white. Does that make sense? But there's settlers of all colors that we all, even I still have parts of my mind in my experience that I'm decolonizing. But in both cases, they only make sense if you realize they're benefiting a certain structure and that ultimately they're created with the intention of upholding that people of color are not good enough. Whether it's almost like only in capitalism, only in the Western world has a system been designed such that none of us are ever good enough. It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter what metric you're using. They can find a way to where you aren't enough. That means it's a system that actually has no rhyme or reason if other than that. And that's, one of those curtains I hope to kind of peel back, because what's important, and this is where we start going into lecture, is that, like I said, right, it has real world implications when it comes to data, which has impacts on funding and policy. But then it also has, I was like, I've turned the recording on, by the way, when we were away, just so you guys know. I'm going to go ahead and toggle onto PowerPoint. I love this. I hope these group activities they get you guys thinking about it in ways that I can't do if you just listen to me talk. And blame, like I said, the back of the bathroom stalls here, where they say that you remember 90% of the things you do. So in a way, you're going to have a better chance of remembering what you learn in those classes where your body gets up and moves with it a little bit. Now in this class, it's different. I can't make you do settler colonialism. Don't remember it that way, but hopefully coming up and writing on the board facilitates it sticking just a little bit. Now, blood quantum is an idea you may have never come across. I give you some examples of it this week. Time permitting, we might show some personal examples. But when we think of the one drop rule first, there is this concept in the readings of reflected appraisals. And this draws on the sociological tradition called symbolic interactionism, where the idea essentially is that we all are people with agency and autonomy, but by virtue of being social individuals, we also have an internalized other that is almost representative of all the things that you're supposed to know as a social creature. And it is not just something that's on the outside, even though it derives meaning from the outside, it's inside you in a interaction perspective. Not like there's 3 people inside you. In fact, there's 9 in me, but I've counted. I, me, the other. The I is the person in your head. If you think of meditation talk, what is it? I'm not my thoughts. I'm the one who hears the thoughts. So in that regard, I am the one who hears the thoughts, I think. I'm also thinking the thoughts, so that's murkies the water a little. But I, in that part, me is almost an object. It's like this, it's where the other and the I intersect. If I have this internalized perspective of what others will think on any given thing, it directly impacts how me is shaped, how me shows up, and how me understands the world that they walk in. Now, this is because we're talking about essentially the intersection between social perception versus internal identity and how we think others see us, for better or for worse, shapes how we see ourselves, and in turn, who we are on an identity level. Now, further on this one drop rule, if we think of why is it that a rule like this would exist in a historical capacity? And you have to remember that you can never separate some of these things from the very real, what would it be? Sorry, I track my trees. I was planting a new tree we're teaching. Economics. It doesn't always come down to that, but like make sure it doesn't before you consider other options. Or if you're looking for an answer, like all of these things, if enrollment means benefits, one drop rule, there's the incentive there is that the more people who are less than by whatever metric, the better, because then that means the more access to a specific resource. In this case, the actual bodies of people. Now, this comes back to the history of slavery. We can't separate the two. And we have to realize, right, the more people you can enslave, the better. And ultimately, the one drop rule and colorism, if we think of in a historical perspective, while colorism impacts many communities in present day, historically, and in kind of a theory perspective, that's where we see it, the conversation starting first is the one drop rule and how in, whether it was the Civil War, but then the post-war period, how a one drop rule was used to maybe no longer enslave people directly, but it was used to segregate people and continue to ensconce a certain kind of social structure on the basis of skin color. And if we remember from last time, we learned that slavery in and of itself on the basis of skin color is a relatively novel historical invention. So the one drop rule itself is even more recent and must be considered within this historical and largely economic frame. Now, when it comes to blood quantum, what is it? How is it different? I personally am impacted by this because it is essentially a tool of the oppressor, first and foremost, but it is how historically the eligibility criteria of a tribe's enrollment has been determined. Now, because of tribal sovereignty, who our membership is and our ability to determine that is an inherent right. So no outsider gets to tell you who your people are. And that's something that we all have, whether or not we're federally recognized or not. But if we are federally recognized and we are part of the recipients of this trust responsibility, whether we want to have wider considerations for enrollment runs up right against the eligibility criteria of the federal government that demands a blood quantum criteria for services eligibility. So if you have a tribe of 500, you want to get services for a tribe of 500. But if that tribe is told by the government, only those people who are a quarter or more count for services, there's a reason why the tribe might have enrollment criteria that are specific to that. Whether they want to acknowledge those who are an eighth or descendants or who grew up in the community, regardless of the amount, quote unquote, of blood they have. That in itself has been thoroughly debunked. You can't be a certain amount of someone. What you might be talking about is someone's ethnicity, their cultural legacy, but even that doesn't live in the blood. We know race itself is only skin deep, and blood quantum itself comes from essentially in the early 1900s, they had all the Indian land left that was supposed to be ours, and they just opened it up for allotments whereby white people could just come take 25 acres for free because we weren't using it. in order to know how much land had to be left for each Indian to have that much, and the rest could then be a free-for-all, they had to conduct a census of natives at that time. And it wasn't anything based on what our community said our people were or how we identified them. There was white census takers sent to native communities and said, you look like a halvesies. You might have a little in you. I'll put you down as a quarter. You're dark. Clearly, you're a full blood. That was the extent of their method, and it ran as skin deep as all the rest of it. So it's ironic now that in present day, so many people in Native communities, sadly, use this as a way to quantify their identity and actually use it as a way to laterally oppress others. My tribe itself just recently, I don't know which way the vote went, quite honestly. If we are deciding to open up some kind of lineal descendancy, but unless I were to have babies with someone who has at least some other tribal blood, my children won't be able to be enrolled in my tribe with their current membership. Although they'll be Yurok and they'll always know where they come from, if we don't rethink those enrollment strategies, it was designed, you cut a half into a quarter, into an eighth, into a 16th, into a 32nd until it's gone. We want people gone because we want the land. It's the opposite of the one drop rule, even though it's eerily similar. And like I said, it's messed up that people actually think this way for whether we want them to or not. Now, I am actually gonna have you guys do some midterm evaluations. So I'm gonna step out now, and actually, this time I will stay for them because I want to keep my computer running to show them. But I'm gonna start passing them out. I'll be outside, and yeah, this is just a chance for me to check in, check the temperature, if there's anything I can do better in the time we have left. And if you get a chance, read some of the stuff that was set up here. I actually pipe up at one point, but some really like reckless things were almost said, but I had to hold my tongue, but it actually popped off the first time I taught this class. And this was what was said, but it reared its head just on the recent election. And yeah, I don't want to name names, but you guys actually saw me in a photo with someone whose family is going 10 toes down here. And when I met the girl going 10 toes down here at the Salmon Festival, she knew who Blythe was. It was not good. But yes, I'll be back, you guys. Thank you for weighing in, and I'll see you guys next time.
You're definitely not even just here. Oh, yeah. Doing these actions.
No. Yeah. You want to do with the gallery? Yes. What is it? But you haven't taken care of it. Yeah, you did it? Yeah. Okay, just make sure that whatever you're talking about is not the same thing that you about in fact. Okay. Yeah. Because if not, when you submit it, it's gonna say that you submitted.
Oh shit, I just ducked out on Zoom. My bad. My bad, Zoom. If you're here on Zoom, I did just duck out. You guys could go. Thank you for hanging. If you have questions, unfortunately today I can't have office hours because we have a busy presentation day. Send me an email, but you are free to go. And thank you guys for hanging around. Yeah. Thanks. Oh, what's that?
I wanted to see if you have like a few minutes.
You can talk to me while I pack up, but
Okay,
that
that's
is
fine.
the extent of it.
So I wanted to talk to you about like